Hi, welcome back to Movie Patrol. Today I am going to be showing sports drama film from 2009 called The Blind Side. There are spoilers ahead, so watch out and enjoy. 17-year-old Michael O'Hare, also known as Big Mike, lived in foster care due to his mother's drug addiction. His father also left him at a young age, so he was living a fugitive life. Mike is being interrogated by an investigator, and he seems to be very nervous. To understand why Mike is in a situation where he has to be interrogated, the story dates back to 2 years. Mike has been living at his friend's house for some time. To help enroll Mike and his son, Tony goes to see Bert Cotton, the football coach of Wingate Christian School. Coach Bert is impressed with Mike's size and athleticism and wanted to enroll Mike despite his poor academic standards. The school board tried to deny Mike's enrollment, knowing that he will struggle to adjust to a white-dominant private school. However, Bert manages to convince the board to enroll Mike solely on his potential to become a great football player. Mike enters the classroom, but everyone is giving him awkward looks, and even the teacher is seen to be in deep thought looking at Mike. The faculty members are criticizing Mike's enrollment, but Mike's teacher shows them what Mike had written and sees potential in his ability to understand class materials despite everyone's doubts. Tony's family is starting to get tired of Mike staying with them, and even though they didn't tell him to leave, Mike knows this isn't the place where he belonged. Leanne is an interior designer married to a wealthy businessman named Sean Tuahy. They came to watch their daughter, Colin's volleyball game, and sees Mike picking up leftover popcorn after the game. Sean wonders what Mike is doing. The next day, Mike meets SJ, Colin's little brother. Unlike other students in the school, he was open to befriending Mike. When Leanne comes to pick up SJ, she notices Mike and asks about him. SJ tells her he is Big Mike. A few days have passed, and Leanne and Sean come to watch SJ perform in a school play. On their way back home, Leanne sees Mike walking in the rain with no jacket. Sean asks where he was going, and Mike tells him that he is going to the gym. Leanne is worried about Mike and asks him if he had a place to sleep. Mike tells her he has no place to go, so she decides to let him stay the night at their place. She prepares a bed for Mike in the living room. Leanne gets ready to sleep, but starts to worry that Mike might steal something. The next morning she goes to check on Mike and finds that he had already left the house. She goes out and sees Mike leaving. She stops him and asks him if he wanted to celebrate Thanksgiving with the family. For the first time in his life, Mike feels what it's like to spend Thanksgiving with a family. To get Mike's clothes, Leanne and Mike go to his mother's place. Knowing that this is a dangerous neighborhood, Mike stops her and decides to go alone. When he's at the door, he sees an eviction note. Leanne, knowing that Mike has no place to go, suggests that he stay at her place for the time being. Leanne is talking to a teacher about Mike's academic history and sees one area where he had an exceptional gift. It was his ability to protect things he loved. Leanne feels more obligated that she has to protect Mike. She prepares Mike's own room, and he tells her this is the first time he has ever had his own room, let alone his own bed. Leanne understands for the first time what true happiness looks like. As Mike stayed with Leanne's family, he started to change little by little, but more importantly, Mike was changing Leanne. It was Mike who was receiving help, but for some reason, Leanne looked happier living with Mike as the day went by. When they are taking a family picture for Christmas, Mike is also in the picture. When Leanne shows the picture to her friends, they say it's a good thing that she is helping a boy in need, but has to bear hearing prejudiced comments from them. She tells them Mike is a good boy and that it's not her who changed his life, but rather it was him who changed her life. Her friends still don't understand Leanne and say it's dangerous to have a colored person living close to her daughter. Leanne gives them a simple response: shame on you. The next day, Mike starts practicing football, but the coach notices that Mike is not using his athleticism to his advantage and only focuses on defense. Many people worried that Mike would be violent due to his color, but it was the complete opposite. He was scared to hurt other people and couldn't perform at his highest potential. Leanne's family, knowing Mike's personality, tries to help him get used to the violent environment on the field. SJ practices with him to help him build his confidence and hone his football skill. Leanne decides to become his legal guardian. It was not an easy decision to make, but Leanne wanted to help Mike become the best person he can be. She decides to meet with Mike's mom to ask her for her approval. When she goes to see Mike's mother, Leanne sees her in tears that she couldn't do anything for Mike because of her drug addiction. Leanne, even though she was different color, was the same mother to her children as Mike's mother was to her son. She understands her pain and gets her approval to become Mike's legal guardian. The next day, as a gift to becoming part of the family, Leanne gives Mike a brand new truck. SJ is more excited than Mike, and they go for a drive. However, when Mike is not paying attention to the road, they get into an accident. Leanne, hearing about the accident, hurries to the scene. She is talking to SJ, and he seems to be in a minor injury. She is talking to the EMT and hears that a child like SJ should have had a serious injury from the airbag, but Mike's fast reaction to cover SJ with his arm saved him from serious injury. Mike is devastated that he had hurt SJ and can't even see Leanne in the eyes. However, Leanne, knowing that Mike was willing to hurt himself to save SJ even in the crash, tells him that things can be forgiven. She wants Mike to forget about the accident and focus on what he has to do as a football player. She helps him with his mental game throughout the practice. It was the day of Mike's first official game, and Leanne and her family came to watch the game. However, the opposing team's player's father insults Mike with racial comments in the crowd. For some reason, Mike is letting them walk over him. Leanne calls the coach, telling him that he is not using Mike to his full potential, but he ignores her. On top of that, the opposing player's father is still screaming racial comments, and Leanne is fed up with it. She tells him to zip his mouth before she zips it for him. On the field, Mike is on the ground and the opposing team kicks his head, but the referee doesn't do anything about it. The coach gets mad and tells him that this is against the rule, but because of his color, Mike gets mistreated by the referee. At that moment, Mike makes up his mind to protect his teammates and his family and becomes serious for the first time. When the whistle blows, Mike goes straight for the guy who has been walking over him all game and pushes him straight out the field. This gives Mike's team the momentum, and they end up winning the game. Leanne looks back at the opposing team's father and lets him know that Mike is her son. The video of this game goes viral, and college coaches across the country compete to scout Mike. They come to Mike's house one after the other to give him a scholarship to their school. Mike is also improving academically, and the teachers who doubted him in the past are surprised to see his progress. However, one day, Mike gets a call from an investigator from NCAA to interview Mike about his family situation. The investigator's question of concern was whether Leanne and Sean became his legal guardian with an ulterior motive to make him play for their alma mater. Mike, hearing this from the investigator, starts to think that he was being used by the Tuohy family. Before the interview is even finished, Mike walks out of the room. He confronts Leanne and expresses his feeling of betrayal and leaves. That night he doesn't come home, and Leanne is worried about him. She starts to doubt if everything she has done for Mike was actually for him or for her own satisfaction. The next day, Leanne goes to see Mike and asks him for the first time if he truly wanted to play football. She tells him to choose the school that he wants to go to and pursue his dream. Mike truly accepts the Tuohy family as his own and goes back to the investigator to confidently tell her his choice to go to the University of Mississippi, where Leanne and Sean graduated from. The movie ends with Mike entering college and taking his first step to his dream to become an NFL player. The movie was based on a true story of a Super Bowl champion who rose to fame from literally nothing. We learn many lessons from Mike's life story. The things that we consider as nothing can become everything to some people, and that one person's simple act of kindness can change the lives of others forever. If Leanne wasn't there for Mike at the most crucial time of his life, we might not have seen Mike shine in the NFL. It might seem that Mike had been lucky with his opportunity, but the things that he received are common things that many people take for granted. Sometimes it's enough love that can change the fate of someone's life, and we witnessed it from Mike's story. Thank you for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe and turn on the notification button so you don't miss out on any content.